Nixon, this is a review of your lesson from October 30th of 2020. I want you to do the scale 2 times a day with a very consistent tempo. And when you do this, especially when you're coming back down the scale, be prepared for these low hand fingers to need to really be ready to get that B, that low A, and that low G. Scale. Here we go. 1, 2. Scale again. Ready? 1, 2. Okay, the next thing I want you to do is the G grace note scale. Same idea, being very consistent in your tempo. With this one, I really need you to think about exactly which fingers are up and down at what time. And by that, I mean, for example, if we're coming from F and we're going down to E, but we need to do a G grace note in between, we play F, we lift up this finger to make the G grace note, and bring both of those down at the same time. G grace note scale. Ready? 1, 2. That's what we're aiming for. If you had any trouble following along with that, what I'd like you to do is pause the video, try it on your own, try and sort out the areas that need a little bit of work, and then try it again with the recording. The next thing we worked on was GDE triplets. We kind of challenged you. We did this at 50 beats per minute. We had a lot of fun with this. You did a nice job at 50 beats per minute. Here's what it sounds like in the background. That's the metronome sound, of course. And what I specifically want you to do is the exercise sequence that I gave you on, it's called exercise sheet 2. And so you want to go ahead and find that. And it's basically a triplet on low A, another triplet on low A, triplet on B, triplet on B, triplet on C, triplet on C. Now the trick with this one is the transitions between each packet of triplets. You're going to really need to watch out for that. For example, when we're all done with the low A's, right? And we're on low A and we got to go up to B, you got to do a G grace note up to B to start the next triplet. I'm going to do it at this speed for all 3 of them. Then I'm going to slow it down for all 3 of them. So here we go. And ready? 1, 2. So that's the full speed 50 beats per minute for all of them. However, you didn't really practice that very much, and so that's something to work toward. What I would like to do is bring it down to 20, let's say 30 beats per minute. Same thing. So here we go. So ready? 1, 2. Now that also might be a challenge right now as you learn to make those transitions between the end of the A triplets into the B triplet and the end of this B triplets into the C. Take your time, do it on your own if you need to, which is probably something you just should do. The next thing we worked on was the high A doubling. And the biggest thing we changed this week was not taking breaths in between every single note. You need to bring the low hand fingers down when you go to high A. Don't forget that, right? So every time we go to high A, the low hand fingers have to come down. Okay. Here's the high A doubling scale. Ready? Starting on low G. Ready? 1, 2. All right. Next thing is the first bar and second bar of the Glasgow Police Piper's Jig. And I wrote this music out on your paper that you have in your sheet music, I should say, in your book. And the biggest challenge in this is also going to be those transitions that we talked about. So the first measure, right, is a G, D, E triplet on the way, a G grace note to C, high A, C. That's the first measure. It sounds like this. Your challenge is when you end the triplet on the way and you're on the way, you have to do a G grace note to C. So it sounds like this. Right? And then when you put that next part of that measure all together, the C, high A, C, from the low way before it, it goes like this. Again. So these are the parts of that measure. You want to connect them. Again, here's the first measure. 1, 2. Again. 1, 2. You try that on your own. Try and play it with the recording if you can. The next measure is a triplet on B, G, D, E triplet on B, then a G grace note to C, a high A, and then a thumb strike to make a high G grace note on another high A. It sounds like this. Just the second measure. Now, breaking that down, we need to remember we're coming from the previous measure, which ends on C. So we're on a C, and we got to do a G grace note. Nixon, this is part 2 of your practice chanter lesson from October 30th, and I'm just going to review the second measure of the Glasgow Police Piper's Jig. It sounds like this. But you're coming from the measure before it, which ends on a C, so you have to go. Again, second measure of Glasgow Police Piper's Jig, and starting with the C that comes from the measure before it. That's the sound we're looking for. I need you to do this on your own without the recording to get comfortable with it. Once you've taken some time to do that, you can turn this back on and listen to the first 2 measures of Glasgow Police Piper's Jig. Here are the first 2 measures of Glasgow Police Piper's Jig. It goes like this. 1, 2. Again. Take your time on that. Work on it separately from the recording. Have fun.